Aloha, this is Frank of Reasons for Hope and Waipio Grace Brethren Church. We'd like to thank you for joining us today as we once again go through our devotions on the book of Revelation. One of the things that you will notice is different is so far every church that we've gone through in Revelation chapter 2 and 3, we've covered in a single episode. But we're going to actually take our time and do the Church of Philadelphia in 3 episodes. So for 3 weeks, back to back to back, because there is so many commendations that are given to this church. But I want to be clear at the outset and state that no church is perfect. In fact, I hear so many people a lot of the times saying, well, we keep looking around for the perfect church. Let me just be clear. You're not going to find one. And the moment you enter it, it's not going to be perfect any longer because you and I are sinners. And so therefore, we should go to a church that exemplifies the Lord Jesus and teaches His Word and causes us to be obedient to it and has godliness and church discipline and all the things that a church needs to have in order to be productive. But ultimately, we're not going to find a perfect church. In fact, I like what R.C. Sproul said. He said that many times there are people who say, well, I don't want to go to church because the church is full of hypocrites. But yet, the church is the only institution in which you have to admit you're a failure or a sinner before you can join it. And there's no hypocrisy in that. And so therefore, although there weren't any condemnations mentioned of the Church of Philadelphia, we can rest assured that they were not perfect and they probably still had their struggles like other churches, although their commendations were so exemplary that that's what Jesus chose to bring out and represent them as a church. I'd like to share a joke by Ray Stedman really quickly. I thought this was a good one to kind of bring out the point. It says, a father brought his son to church one day and was taking him on a quick tour through the church building. They came to a plaque on the wall, and the little boy asked, Daddy, what's this for? And his father said, oh, that's a memorial to those who died in the service. The little boy glanced up with his father, a puzzled look on his face, and he said, what service, Daddy? Was it the morning service or the evening service? You see, there's so many times that we feel that the church is something that would hurt us or something that is always full of things that can cause pain. And yet, we see quite clearly that the Church of Philadelphia was amazing in Jesus' eyes. Let's dive in. Revelation 3:7a says, and to the angel of the Church of Philadelphia write, and I'm going to pause there. This word for Philadelphia means the love of the Christian brotherhood. Now, little is known about the Philadelphian passage. We know that a few years after John wrote the book of Revelation, Ignatius passed through Philadelphia, and he ultimately ended up in Rome where he was martyred, but he wrote a letter of encouragement to the Church of Philadelphia as well. And it was about 30 miles from Sardis, and it was the youngest of the 7 cities. Many believe the reason that it got its name was that ultimately Attalus II, who was the brother of Eumenes, founded the church, and he was known as, his nickname was ultimately Philadelphus, which represented the love of brothers, in other words, showing his love for his brother Eumenes, and therefore that's where the Church of Philadelphia got its name, not necessarily the church, but the city. The author is none other, once again, than Jesus himself. Look at what it says in Revelation 3:7b. These things says he who is holy and he who is true, who has the key of David, and who opens and no one shuts, and shuts and no one opens. As we have noticed from all of our other letters so far, Jesus is the divine author of all of the letters to the 7 churches. And he always introduces himself with a description reflecting ultimately his character. In the previous 5 letters, his description was taken from the vision recorded by John in Revelation 1:12 through 17. But this description of him is unique and not drawn from Revelation chapter 1. He starts by using the word holy, hagios in the Greek, which is dedicated to purity and righteousness. The term he who is holy can only refer to one person, and that is God, because God alone possesses absolute holiness. God is holy, and therefore he is utterly separate from sin. He is unblemished, he is flawless, he is perfect, and no other person can claim this. So in order for Jesus to claim this title, he was claiming deity, saying that he himself was God. Remember, the title Holy One is also used in the New Testament as a messianic title for the Lord Jesus Christ. In fact, when Jesus' birth was announced in Luke 1:35, they said that the one born to Mary would be the Holy One. Even the demons used the term Holy One to describe Jesus in Mark 1:23-28. And this is why people were so amazed, because only the Holy One could have these kinds of results that Jesus had. And so therefore, when he's proclaiming his holiness and calling himself the Holy One to the church of Philadelphia, what he's saying is that I, Jesus, who am God, am writing to you. And because the church of Philadelphia was seen as holy, and he who said it was holy, this eliminates every church on the planet from having an excuse. If the church clings to Jesus and is in Jesus, who is holy, then Jesus can make the church holy, and the church will be holy. This is not only true of Jesus, but he also describes himself as the one who is true. So not only is he holy, but he calls himself the one who is true. This word true, alathinos in the Greek, is the word meaning real or unfeigned or not fake or trustworthy, or we can bank on it. Actually, truth is revealed in combination with holiness to describe God quite a bit in the book of Revelation. These terms holy or and true, or holy and faithful. Revelation 6:10, Revelation 15:3, Revelation 16:7, Revelation 19:2, and Revelation 19:11. All of them use a combination of these words to exemplify the same person, Jesus himself. And in the midst of all the falsehood and perversion and error that is in the world, what Jesus is saying ultimately is that he is not only holy, but he is the truth. In fact, probably the most famous Bible passage that we know regarding Jesus being the truth, we can probably all quote it, John 14:6, when Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. The thing that I want to point out to us today is maybe this is why so many people are asking, are you for real? Or is this for real? Or is that for real? Because our world is full of falsehood and perversion and error. And it fills our world with doubt and lies. And so therefore, the world is looking for something, and I would argue someone, that is true. And therefore, that someone or something that is true must also be holy. And so I would argue, maybe if the church were holy, and the people who call themselves believers actually believed and behaved in a holy fashion, just as Jesus was holy and true, and we are holy and true, it would eradicate the idea that a depraved world would have to ask, are you for real? They would know that we're for real, because our lives would substantiate the fact that Jesus is real and that he really changed our lives. I like how one person said it. He says we need to be able to proclaim that Jesus is truly true, holy, holy, and really real. I'm going to say that again. We need to be able to proclaim, as we're in a relationship with Jesus, that he is truly true, holy, holy, and really real. Jesus then describes himself as the one who has the key of David, and this is a clear symbol of his messianic office. And ultimately, as the holder of the key of David, what he was saying is that he alone has the authority to open up the kingdom to whom he wants. And we also notice that Jesus identifies himself then as the one who opens and no one can shut, and shuts and no one can open. And this clearly identifies his omnipotence or his absolute power. In other words, what he does will never be overdone or overturned by someone more powerful than he. In other words, it's as if Jesus was saying, I am going to act and no one can reverse it. No one can shut the doors that Jesus has opened, and no one can ultimately open the doors that he is keeping shut. The bottom line is that Jesus is sovereign, and he is in absolute and total control. So my encouragement for us today would be that we live lives that prove that Jesus is truly true, holy, holy, and really real. And we will give people a reason for the hope that is in us. Once again, I'm Pastor Frank of Reasons for Hope, and I thank you for watching us today. Aloha.